Imagine you're renovating your home in the central Anatolian province of Cappadocia. The year is 1963. You're swinging a sledgehammer against a basement wall, expecting nothing more than a dusty storage room. But the wall doesn't just crack, it collapses into a void. As the dust settles, you find yourself staring into a dark, vertical shaft, one that seems to swallow the beam of your flashlight. You've just opened a door that's been sealed for centuries. You haven't found a cellar. You've discovered the entrance to a nightmare and a miracle. This is Derinkuyu. Forget everything you think you know about ancient cities. This isn't a city of towers and monuments. It's a city of shadows, carved up to 18 stories deep into the volcanic heart of the earth. At its peak, it may have sheltered as many as 20,000 people, living, working, and dying without seeing the sun for months at a time. Derinkuyu isn't a monument built from ambition. It's a masterpiece of engineering born from something far older and more powerful: terror. Stepping inside feels like walking into a survival documentary where the antagonist is the world itself. And to understand why an entire civilization would choose to bury itself alive, we have to peel back the layers of history, grit, and the suffocating silence of the deep earth. Descending into the first level of Derinkuyu, the air changes instantly. It's cool, stable around 55 degrees Fahrenheit, but there's a weight to it, a pressure you feel in your chest. The first impression is pure claustrophobia. The ceilings are low. The corridors are so narrow that two grown men can't pass without shoulders brushing. This wasn't built for comfort. This was built for the desperate. The streets of Derinkuyu aren't streets at all. They're vertical shafts, jagged tunnels, and cramped passageways. There's no white marble here, no grand plazas. Everything is the color of volcanic tuff, soft, ash-gray stone that feels eerily organic, like the inside of a giant lung. But the deeper you go, the more the madness begins to make sense. The layout is a defensive masterclass. Every corridor is a trap. The tunnels are intentionally narrow and low-ceilinged to force any invading army, Persians, Romans, Arabs, into single file, hunched over, slow, exposed. And then you see them, the doors. These aren't wooden gates. They're massive circular stone discs carved from the rock itself, some weighing close to 1,000 pounds. Each one has a small hole in the center. Not for a key, for a spear. These stones could only be moved from the inside, and once the final disc was rolled into place, the world above could burn, the city could be erased, and the people below would remain silent, unreachable, and untouchable. In Derinkuyu, a door wasn't an entrance, it was a tombstone for the outside world. So how does a city of thousands breathe? How do they eat? How do they survive the psychological assault of total darkness? The answer lies in an engineering feat that feels impossible for its time. Look up in certain chambers and you'll see a shaft stretching straight toward the surface, nearly 55 meters high. This is the city's heart, the ventilation system. Derinkuyu contains thousands of ducts and air channels. Some estimates place the number in the tens of thousands, designed to pull fresh air down into the deepest levels. But the air wasn't just for breathing, it was for fire. In the upper levels, you find the kitchens. The ceilings are blackened with soot, silent proof of thousands of meals cooked in the dark. And here's the question that should make this entire city feel unreal. If you have hundreds of fires burning, why didn't the smoke suffocate everyone? The engineers solved it with hidden chimneys and carefully designed airflow, dispersing smoke so thinly across the surface that it became nearly invisible. They weren't just hiding underground, they were hiding their existence. Water was managed through deep wells that didn't connect to the surface, making it harder for enemies to poison the supply. Waste was managed in sealed pits. Every inch of space was contested. You lived with livestock in the upper levels, the animal heat providing crude insulation against the damp cold. Humans occupied the deeper, more secure chambers. It was warm, it was malodorous, it was tense. And in Derinkuyu, privacy didn't exist. The moment you crossed the threshold, you stopped being an individual. You became part of a single collective organism, built around one goal: don't be discovered. The deeper you go, the atmosphere changes. It stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like something else. On the 7th level, the tunnels open up into a massive cruciform chamber. This is the church. Standing inside this underground cathedral, the silence is absolute. Not empty silence, heavy silence. A velvet stillness that rings in your ears. There are no stained glass windows here, no golden icons, just rough-hewn pillars of earth and stone. The people who fled into Derinkuyu, many of them early Christians escaping persecution, didn't just bring their belongings, they brought their God. To pray here was to pray in a world that had forgotten you. And the psychological toll must have been staggering. Imagine children born in these tunnels who might not see the sky for years. Imagine elders dying in the dark, their bodies buried inside the very walls that protected them. Some children may have learned the shape of the world from a ceiling. The church wasn't just a religious space, it was a psychological anchor, a place where the suffocating proximity of the tunnels gave way briefly to scale. But even here, the mystery remains. Who carved this? While Christians used it, the earliest layers may date back to the Phrygians in the 8th century BC, or perhaps even the Hittites. Derinkuyu is a city of layers, a vertical timeline, one civilization building upon the fear of another. Derinkuyu wasn't an isolated bunker. It was part of a network. Archaeologists have discovered tunnels stretching for miles, connecting Derinkuyu to other underground cities like Kaimakli. Think about that for a second. An entire subterranean highway system. If one city was compromised, residents could migrate through the darkness to another. This was invisible warfare. The enemies above, Roman legions, Arab caliphates, could ride across the plains of Cappadocia, seeing nothing but empty huts and dry grass. They were looking for targets they could see, while an entire population moved beneath their horses' hooves like a colony of ants. But that kind of security came at a price, a rule you could never break, the law of the deep. In a world with limited air, limited water, and limited room, discipline had to be absolute. Any sound, any light, any mistake could betray the ventilation shafts. Life in Derinkuyu was a life of mandatory silence. You spoke in whispers. You moved carefully. You existed in a state of constant auditory surveillance, not from a government, but from the walls themselves. Because down here, survival wasn't a skill, it was law. For all its brilliance, Derinkuyu had an expiration date. By the 20th century, the city had been largely forgotten, used mostly by local farmers to store grapes or keep animals cool. The iron legions of history had moved on, and the need to live in the dirt had faded. But the mystery remains. How did they do it? With nothing but hand tools and oil lamps, they removed millions of tons of stone. They calculated the structural integrity of 18 underground stories so perfectly that even today, after centuries of earthquakes, Derinkuyu still stands. When you finally walk back through the exit and fresh air hits your face, the sunlight feels almost violent. And in that moment, you realize something. The people who lived here didn't hate the sun. They loved their lives more. They traded the sky for the shadows, the wind for the silence, the horizon for stone. Derinkuyu is more than an archaeological site. It's a survival map of the human soul. It proves that when pushed to the edge of extinction, we don't just flee. We adapt. We transform. The Western Wall, the pyramids, the Colosseum, those are monuments to power. But Derinkuyu is a monument to the will to live. A gritty, dirty, magnificent testament to a truth most people forget. The most incredible chapters of human history weren't written in the clouds or on mountaintops. They were carved in the dark, 18 stories down, by people who refused to disappear. The world above has changed. Empires have fallen. Languages have died. Maps have been redrawn 1,000 times. But the tunnels of Derinkuyu remain, cool, silent, waiting for the next time the world becomes too dangerous for the light. Because history isn't only what we see when we look up. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones we've spent centuries trying to bury under our feet. And knowing what it took to survive down there, does it change how you see the ground you walk on? Every crack in the earth, every hidden cave might just be the roof of a world we've forgotten. If you want to explore more vanished civilizations that chose the shadows over the sun, hit that subscribe button. The past is deep, and we've only just started digging. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon, but never forget what lies beneath. And somewhere in Cappadocia, a wall may still be waiting for the next hammer.